My name is Kelly Lester. I work with Abby Johnson at And Then There Were None. And we're going to do a little exercise tonight. Are you guys ready to do a little exercise? We're not going to actually do jumping jacks, but a spiritual exercise. So what I want you to do is I want everyone to close your eyes. And I want you to think about the worst thing you've ever done in your life. And then I want you to think of the worst thing that's ever been done to you in your life. Now I want you to think of the worst thing you've ever done to someone else. Now open your eyes. I can tell you that I was molested at 3. I was raped at 13. I had my first abortion at 15. I subsequently had 3 more abortions. And then I worked in the abortion industry. So I want to talk to you tonight about forgiveness. Because I have people in my life that I've needed to forgive. I've had things in my life that I've needed to ask forgiveness for. And I've had a lot of women and babies in my life that I've had to ask for forgiveness to, as we all have. And the theme of this conference is the last stand. And I want to tell you that forgiveness is a very important part of that. Because the other side is coming at us with anger and with hate and with vitriol, accusing us, calling us names. And if we haven't gone through the process of forgiveness, we are going to respond to them with anger and with hate and with the same kinds of attitudes. You know, when I worked in the abortion industry, one of the places that I was over was the recovery room. And in that recovery room, it didn't matter whether women had come in with 5 kids in tow, conflicted about what they were about to do, or if they came in with a pink hat shouting their abortion. In that recovery room, every woman was sad. Most of them were silently crying. They were not shouting their abortions. But those women were not told that they had a right to feel sorrow or to feel shame or to feel anything about their abortion, because abortion is empowering. It's your body. It's your choice. It's a rite of passage. Women, you get your period and then you have an abortion. It's part of what we do. And so those women that are sitting in those rooms feeling so upset because they know they have killed their child, don't know what to do with that emotion. And so they take that emotion of sadness and regret, and they turn it into anger and into rage. And when I go to a women's march, or I stand outside of an abortion facility and someone's pointing the way to heaven, not with their pointer finger, or screaming at me and cussing at me, I look at them and you know what I see? Brokenness, and probably someone who has had or facilitated an abortion. And church, if we don't get healed, we are not going to be able to have compassion on those around us. And compassion doesn't mean complacency. And it doesn't mean you just let everybody go and do whatever they're going to do. Jesus was the most compassionate person. He was moved with compassion constantly, and he had no problem calling out people's sin. But you know what's interesting is he did it in different ways. The woman at the well, how did he call out her sin? With kindness, with tenderness, revealing the things of her heart that no one knew. The woman with the issue of blood, how did he confront her brokenness? All of these people throughout the Bible that he confronted with compassion and with gentleness. But there was one group of people that he called a brood of vipers, whose tables he turned over. And that was us, the church. But it's important, church, that we also follow Jesus' model. And on the cross, between two sinners, he said, Father, forgive them. And so we need to walk in that. But we can only forgive others as much as we have been forgiven. And so it's important as a church that you get healing. When I got saved, I'd run from the Lord for most of my life, and I was sitting in the front row of my dad's church because he was a pastor. And I heard the audible voice of the Lord, and he said, Kelly, have you had enough? And I said, but God, how could you ever love me for all of the things that I've done? And he said, Kelly, if you follow me, I will make beauty from ashes. And I can tell you that he has done that. But then I said, God, but how do you make beautiful being molested at 3 and raped at 13 and countless abortions and domestic? How do you make those things beautiful? And he didn't answer me, because sometimes God speaks with an audible voice. He always speaks through a scripture, and sometimes he is silent. But one of the ways he makes those things beautiful is moments like tonight. Moments where I get to go around the country sharing my story. And I can tell you that everywhere that the enemy meant to steal, kill, and destroy, God has saved, healed, redeemed, and restored. But I had to get healing in those areas. And our nation, our young people, we heard from Gen Z earlier, if you are not real, they are not going to listen to you. But you can't be real if you're not healed. And when something triggers you, God's revealing something to you. And I tell people all the time, if you're going to stand outside of an abortion facility and you're going to scream and yell and be nasty, please don't come. Stay home and pray for the people that are on the front lines. So church, we have to stand, and we have to stand in truth, and we have to stand in righteousness, and we have to stand in holiness, and we have to stand in biblical values. But if we do not do it with love, we are a clinging symbol. But it has to come through a heart of forgiveness and healing. Pastors, this is a little off my topic, but I'm going to say it to you because I say it every stage I stand on. If you are not talking about abortion in your church, you are pro-choice. And as the shepherds, you are called to lead our people. And that includes the men and women in your church who have had abortions. And they're there. And you need to lead them through how to get healing. I talk to pastors and they say, Kelly, we can't talk about that because our wife had an abortion. Well, she needs healing. And so do you. And so, church, we need to be promoting healing and forgiveness and restoration so that we can be the light in the darkness. So that we can be the salt that we heard about. So that we can change the direction of our nation and the direction of our youth. And we can make a real difference in the war on abortion and the war on our children and our women. Thank you.